You can't tell people they're in charge of their own government. It's a democracy, we promise, and then ignore over decades their most strongly held opinions on things that matter. That doesn't work long term. They will rebel, guaranteed. And the best you can hope for is that they will do it peacefully. In Italy, they seem to be doing just that. This summer, a conservative populist called Giorgia Meloni started showing up with strong support in the polls. Meloni was no radical. Her views would have seemed perfectly ordinary just a decade ago. But because she resolutely refused to bow to the twin gods of climate and mass migration, people panicked. The president of the European Commission, in fact, on camera, commanded Italians not to vote for her. Watch.
So we'll see if things go in a difficult direction. I've spoken about Hungary and Poland. We have tools if things go in the right direction. And people, as a body that is always, where always governments have to be accountable to, play an important role.
Oh, if things go in the wrong directions, in other words, if voters disobey, quote, we have tools. Oh, you do you? Well, that sounds like a threat because, of course, it is a threat. But it turns out Italians are so desperate, they no longer care. They're not afraid. And they're not afraid because neoliberalism, which that lady is just espousing, has destroyed their country. Energy prices in some places in Italy are now up more than 400% over last year. Why? Well, a pointless war in Ukraine and self-destructive climate policy. It's not an accident, and everyone knows it. Meanwhile, parts of Italy are becoming flat-out dangerous. That hasn't happened before, outside of Sicily, but it's happening now. Why? Everyone knows why. And government statistics show why. It's migrants who are driving much of the crime, a huge amount of the crime. So these aren't mysteries, but you're not allowed to acknowledge them in public, period. In some places, it's illegal. But Meloni is one of the very few politicians who doesn't care and has been willing to say the obvious, the truth, out loud. And as a result of that, because she's been willing to say what everybody actually knows, last night her party, called Brothers of Italy, won an overwhelming victory in Italy. They took both majorities in the Houses of Parliament. So by Italian standards, and in fact by American standards, this is a revolution. But unlike most revolutions, the person at the front of it can actually explain what she's about. She can articulate it in a way people understand. She's smart. This is part of the speech she gave earlier this year that led to last night's results. Watch.
Everything we stand for is under attack. Our individual freedom is under attack. Our rights are under attack. The sovereignty of our nation is under attack. The prosperity and well-being of our families is under attack. The education of our children is under attack. In front of this, people understand that in this age, the only way of being rebels is to preserve what we are. The only way of being rebels is to be conservatives. They will try to take everything away from us, but they can't take away who we are. And you know what? Cherishing who we are, knowing what we stand for, is all we need to face this challenge.
She's not kidding. She's as serious as the moment we are currently living through. Our rights are under attack, she said. The sovereignty of our nation is under attack. And critically, quote, the prosperity and well-being of our families is under attack. And that's true. That's why it's resonant, because it's real, and not just in Italy. It's true here. American families are facing the very same onslaught from the very same poisonous ideologies. The difference is that in this country, it's rarely acknowledged, except on the fringes. Meloni is not on the fringes. She's the new prime minister of Italy. She will be, and she's saying it out loud. Contrast that to what's happening in the United States. House Republicans just spelled out what they're running on. It's a document called the Commitment to America. It's fine. Probably not much in it you disagree with it. Have you heard of it? No, you probably haven't. You probably haven't read it. Nobody really cares. Why? Because there's nothing real in it. There's not a single word in that document about the attacks on the American family that you see every day. That's at the center of most people's concerns. How are my kids? Will they have a life that resembles mine? That was called the American dream. Does it still exist? Will they be able to afford to live the way they grew up? Will they have the opportunities that we had? No. People are upset about that. Why wouldn't they be? but nobody says it. And that's odd, because we know, and now it's been proven, that when politicians are brave enough to tell the truth about what's actually happening, they tend to be rewarded for it. Once again, here's the incoming Prime Minister of Italy. And as you watch this, ask yourself if you would vote for a candidate like this if you had the chance in our country.
A monte c'è quella che ci facciamo oggi: perché la famiglia è un nemico? Perché la famiglia fa così paura? C'è una risposta unica per tutte queste domande. Perché ci definisce, perché è la nostra identità. Perché tutto quello che ci definisce in questo tempo è un nemico. Per chi vorrebbe che non avessimo più un'identità e che fossimo solamente schiavi, consumatori perfetti. Chesterton, ormai più di un secolo fa, vediamo se ve lo trovo, fuochi verranno attizzati per dimostrare che 2 più 2 fa 4. Spade verranno sguainate per dimostrare che le foglie sono verdi in estate. Quel tempo è arrivato, signori. Siamo pronti. Grazie.
So that's the person who's being described all over American television, including on channels that should know better, as, quote, far right. That's far right, really? Because she acknowledges that American families are under attack? Of course they are. You think it's accidental? No. And she explains why. And it's simple. If you want to establish totalitarian control over a country, of course you have to destroy the family first. Because nobody with deep family loyalty, the one thing every person should have, no one who has that will ever pledge absolute obedience to a politician. Why would you? So if you want absolute obedience, you have to sever family ties. And that's why state schools brainwash your children with values that you despise and then instruct your children to turn you in as a thought criminal if you object. That's happening. It's not your imagination, and it's happening for a reason. Wokeness is not just a political ideology. It's not just something annoying that emerged on college campuses that we can ignore. It's a state religion that supplants actual religion, which is also being destroyed. There's a reason the strip bars and the liquor stores and the weed dispensaries stayed open under COVID, but the churches didn't. If you can't draw the connection between those dots, you're missing it. But Bologna didn't miss it. She understands it perfectly. Watch.
Only a few months ago, European Union bureaucrats wrote a document hundreds of pages long, telling us that in order to be inclusive, we had to exclude all references to Christmas. Jesus, Mary, and all Christian names were to be removed from all official communication. Will we surrender in front of this? No, we will not. We will fight it. We will fight it standing tall.
So they hate your family, they hate your religion, and you don't actually have to put up with it because it's a democracy and you're supposed to be in charge, you being the population. That's a radical message, God, family, country. That's not radical. It's hard to imagine a more wholesome message, a more pro-human platform. Fascists don't believe in God because God is a rival to their power. Of course. This is a person publicly professing faith in God. That's so scary, but it is so scary. It's so scary to the people running and benefiting from our current system. And why is that? She's not the first person to say this. People have said it before, but she's just been rewarded for saying it. That's the point. The population likes it. This is what they actually want. They're not that worried about global warming. They don't want open borders. They think the woke stuff is absurd. They want to say what they think. And now it's obvious because she just won. And so even in this country, the people running and benefiting from a deeply corrupt and doomed system are hysterical.